Um, so today, our class is actually inspired by a quote which I shared with all of you on the email, and to remind you about class today. And so it's a quote from The Little Prince, actually, and I'll be reading the quote, and we'll be talking a little bit about loving presence and what loving presence means. Um, And I think the idea of sharing this with you, it's because, as I always say, we tend sometimes to romanticize mindfulness into being this, um, sometimes I like to say even like gooey kind of thing, like, oh, it's so great and this and that. And I like to be very real with mindfulness, that it is part of it means to be with our experience. And sometimes it's not always pleasant. So to really be able to be aware of what's happening in the moment, pleasant or unpleasant, right, or neutral. We actually are noticing what we're with. So that being said, I'd love to see if anybody is new to the group. If you're new to the group, please let us know by writing in the chat your name, where you're from. We love welcoming people that are here for the first time. And we don't always have newcomers, so it's always nice to see you and read you on the chat. And I'm seeing all the. Um, I, so I asked before, support is asking me to actually ask you if you can hear me. So you can hear me? Okay, okay. So it might just be the microphone. Okay, so everybody can hear. Okay, so if you can't hear me, please do turn your volume all the way up, because sometimes the computer settings is too low. So please turn your volume all the way up if you're having a hard time hearing. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so so reading the chat and just welcoming everyone to our session today, and looking around and just seeing everyone. So maybe it's just a good time for now, to actually welcome yourself. So welcome, and just noticing how that lands for you, to welcoming yourself to the space. I always like to start that way, and even for me, when I go to a place, I try to always welcome myself to finally arrive. If you're here in front of your computer, then you have already arrived. And I'm seeing that Scott is new to our group. So welcome, Scott. We wanted to give you a formal welcome. So good to have you with us. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us with your presence today. And a little later, you'll be able to read that people might be welcoming you in the chat as well. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, yeah. So welcome. And as we welcome ourselves in this way, perhaps just getting a sense of how the body is feeling in this moment. So just really arriving and catching up with this body that's already here, that's already right in front of us, right here, sometimes ahead of us. Noticing how the body settles, perhaps allowing the mind to just settle in this body, allowing the attention to rest here. And as you become aware of this body, noticing if there is any tension or any tightness anywhere in the body. Perhaps noticing if the body's just restfully supported, or if there is any resistance in the body to the surface supporting you. Is it okay to just maybe be fully supported in this way? Allowing the body to just be cradled by the surface holding you, by the earth. Perhaps taking a deeper than normal breath, becoming acquainted with the breath right now. Following the breath in the body. And just noticing what's here for you at this moment. What are some thoughts that might be here? Noticing the overall state of mind, emotions that might be here, moods. And as you notice them at the same time, perhaps just allowing them to just be there in the background. There's no way to turn away from them or make them go away. Even if we wanted to, they won't. And so it's just a matter of maybe noticing them, allowing them without entertaining anything but your full presence in this moment. And that means the attention right here in this body, settling. The breath, the sensations in the body, relaxation, tension, tightness, numbness, whatever you might be present with, coolness or warmth. That's your experience in this moment. And as you check in with the body, the invitation is to perhaps allow the shoulders to drop, allowing for a sense of relaxation, softening around any tightness. But again, there's nothing that needs to happen. It's just an invitation. And at the same time, noticing the flow of the breath and without changing it, without modifying or controlling the breath, but just noticing how the body is breathing. Sensing the length of the breath, the depth, the quality of the breath. Is it short? Is it long? Is it deep or shallow? Is it fast, slow? And there's nothing that you need to do about it. All we're doing is just noticing what's here in this moment. Without judgment, there's no right, there's no wrong way of doing this. Noticing where the breath is happening. Is it coming from the belly or the chest? Witnessing the breath as the most delicate thing that we have, in reverence to its wisdom that we don't need to control it or change it. We can't, we're not in charge. But He guides us. He guides us by letting us know if it's moving fast or slow, of our overall state of mind. So just for a moment, let's just stay here noticing the breath without changing it, feeling its movement, sensing it. There might be stories playing in the background, even perhaps a story of I can't sense my breath, or I don't know how to do this, or whatever it might be. It's okay. It's just a story. Acknowledging it and coming back to just noticing this body breathing, sensing the breath in the body. Noticing if the breath shifts in any way or changes in any way. Noticing its subtle shift if that happens. Being here with it as to not wanting to miss it. And as you settle here in the breath, perhaps noticing your facial expression, noticing if there's any tightness around the face. And then if there's anything that might feel like it's okay to release or let go, and just allowing for the face to soften. Beginning with the jaw area, the temples, the eyes. And if you're noticing sleepiness, tiredness, boredom, the practice calls for us calling our attention back, bringing our attention back to the body, the breath in this moment. And if the body or the breath are not available to you, then you can bring your attention to sound if that's available to you. You can also open your eyes if you're sleepy, lowering the gaze. And the acknowledgement that there's no end point. We're not here to get anywhere. We're not here to relax. We're not here to sleep. But we're just here to witness. We're a kind witness in this moment of our experience. Now, just really gently shifting gears a little bit into a practice of insight. And I'm just going to offer a question to you. And the idea is to just see what comes up without looking for an answer. So maybe just taking a breath, softening. And the question is, repeating in your own mind after me, what am I? What am I? And just noticing what comes up. Deeply listening to what comes up. The words might have come up, a person, certain gender, from a certain place. Any way that you might identify yourself with. So now letting go of anything that might have come up, allowing it to just filter into the background. Now taking another deeper than normal breath if that's possible. And on a long exhale, just softening again, allowing, opening. Now going deeper, asking yourself the same question. What am I? Quietly listening. Gathering all the answers that are coming to you right now. And now, once again, just letting go of all that came to you, allowing all those thoughts, all those answers to just move into the background once again, letting them pass. Once again, taking a deeper than normal breath. And on a long exhale, softening, letting go, allowing, and going even deeper than that, asking yourself the question, what am I? What am I? Listening kindly. And keep asking, noticing all the layers, going deeper and deeper into your truth. What am I? And perhaps at this point, there's no words. And there's just being. Now taking another deeper than normal breath. And on a long exhale, just letting go of anything. And just allowing what is to be. checking in with the quality of your heart. And then really gently, just tenderly and slowly, bringing your awareness back to your surroundings, perhaps the sounds around you, the temperature. So the poet Juan Ramon Jimenez, in his poem, I Am Not I, says, I am not I am this one, walking beside me who I do not see, whom at times I manage to visit, whom at other times I forget, who remains calm and silent when I talk, and forgives gently when I hate, who walks where I'm not, and will remain standing when I die. I am not I. So whenever you're ready, just noticing your feet in the palms of your hands. And opening your eyes at your own pace. Welcome back, everyone. So today I wanted to just share a few words about um, loving presence. And so that meditation, I found it to be kind of a little bit of a gateway into the sense of loving presence, into going past all the layers of our perception, even about ourselves, who we think we are, and then getting to our truth, the truth behind everything, the truth behind the personality, the social ways in which we adapt and adjust. And so, as I was saying, this sharing today is inspired by The Little Prince. And I started saying it's inspired by a quote, but the quote comes from The Little Prince. And The Little Prince is a French book that came out, I think, back in the 1940s, if I'm not mistaken. And its original language is French. So if there are any French people here, or if you speak French, you might have read the French version of the book. And so there's a quote that says, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. What is essential is invisible to the eye." So today, as I'm sharing about the cultivation of loving presence, I really wanted to just give you an overall sense, because sometimes we tend to, as I was saying, romanticize the idea of mindfulness and even loving presence. And sometimes it almost seems like we're trying too hard, right? It almost seems like we have to have this way of being that exists in our mind and in our head. And because we're practicing mindfulness, or because we're mindful, we need to be a certain way. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, because just like I said, it takes us far away from our truth. And so there's some factors to loving presence, and I just wanted to share that with you. And loving presence kind of speaks to a state of mind. in a way. So it has a lot to do with our state of mind. And this is, there's many research now that over the years that has come up about the state of mind of a caretaker of an infant baby, right? So there's something that happens in that dynamic when a caretaker is taking care of a newborn, and something about that communication. And in some ways, they affect each other's mind, each other's state of mind, right? They're cueing each other constantly. And see, that cannot happen. See, with a baby, you cannot do that from the top of your head, because the baby will sense if the caretaker is anxious. The baby will sense if the caretaker is having fear. The baby will sense all these things, even if the caretaker is just smiling and trying to be soothing to the baby. If the caretaker is not in the right state of mind, the baby will get agitated and respond. And so the sense of loving presence, the idea really to sustain presence and compassion. And presence meaning being aware of our state of mind. So when we're present, we're actually aware of what's happening for us. Our state of mind, meaning our emotions, our moods, right? You've probably heard people saying, I'm not in the right state of mind, or I'm not in the right frame of mind. I need to get in the right state of mind, because they might be worried, because there might be many things that are getting on the way. And so, and this is, part of this is accordingly to the book I was reading, and it's about mindfulness-based somatic therapy, the Hakomi approach. And they define, loving presence as being able to sustain self-awareness and compassion. And this is a mindfulness approach again to therapy. And so being able to sustain self-awareness and compassion. And so the idea is, when we're in the presence of one another, right, when we're interacting, can I find something lovable about this person? Is there something that would allow me to respond to them in a loving way? Right? So that's the question. Because when we come into presence with one another, we come with our own filters. We come with our own perceptions. We're not seeing. That's why part of our practice is to be able to see, to really notice what's in front of us. Because we're training ourselves to be able to see the truth. So we can also say that cultivating a non-judgmental attitude, right, could be part of this loving presence. And so, as I was saying, it's kind of like this loving, warm embrace of a caretaker to a child, to a newborn, right? It's unhurried. When the caretaker is actually present, this is unhurried. This is mesmerizing. And it's a constant communication between them. Constant. And it's not words sometimes. There's not so much, sometimes what I find in my experience is sometimes when I want to help, words come out really fast. I want to fix or help, so I start talking. And it's quite the opposite, right? Sometimes it's just about being. And that being that is really unfiltered, the really what am I essence, staying in my truth. And so loving present is almost like this warm embrace, right? And the practice, again, our practice of mindfulness, right? It leads us to this self-awareness. We're already on the path, right? We're practicing already to be self-aware, and this awareness of our present experience. And it is this awareness of our present experience is directly connected to our subconscious behavior, right? When we pay attention to what's happening in our life like this, moment by moment, we're actually paying attention to what is driving our life. If I see something and I'm reacting to that, then there's a sense of curiosity in that our practice invites us to. What is happening here? What is happening for me? Often we tend to focus on the other person right away. We tend to focus on what's happening in the moment. So the invitation to really notice, what is it for us in that moment? What is happening with me in that moment? And so I wanted to share this. This is a practice that that I learned over the years to develop while teaching MBSR, right? To hold a space for others when we're teaching or when we're around or in the helping or service world. This loving presence is really important to be able to cultivate this sense of just being. And so there's some things that we can actually that I can point out that might be helpful. That this to actually cultivate this loving presence, we might actually become quite aware of our attitude at the moment. What is my attitude in this moment, right? Our perception. What is my perception in the moment? What is my outlook of the world in this moment? How am I seeing the world? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? Right? How am I approaching the moment? Am I approaching the moment with a lot of tension and tightness? Right? So again, talking about the attitude we have in mindfulness in this class, we have the roadmap, which is our guidelines. And everybody that signs for this class gets those guidelines, right? The attitudinal foundations. That's what we practice here constantly. The moment we arrive, we're already noticing, what attitude am I experiencing right now? And what attitude can I draw from right now? Am I judging? Is there judgment right now? Right? Can I practice non-judgment? Am I striving when I'm doing my practice? Am I trying to get somewhere? Am I not okay with how things are? Do I want to get to a happier place or a better place in my mind? And coming back, so non-striving, right? The attitude of non-striving. Am I open to the moment? Am I practicing beginner's mind? So these attitudes we already have. We're lucky to have a roadmap to this loving presence already. That is not something in our heads, but it's something that we can cultivate. In our heads, it wouldn't be genuine, right? It wouldn't be authentic. But if we're cultivating, it's coming from our heart. And then we have the role of perception, which is something that we also speak about quite a bit. But in the story, right, the story follows the little prince. If you're new to the story follows this young prince who leaves his little star where he lives, which is really tiny. There's only room for him. And leaves his little star and goes into this journey around the world. And his little planet in this star, he was living with his rose. He happened to find a rose that grew in his little planet, and he was just living there loving his rose. But one day he decides to leave, and you'll have to watch this. So I'm just giving you a little bit of the summary or read the book. But the main theme is the importance really of looking beneath the surface to find the real truth and meaning of a thing. Right? And in the story, there's a fox who actually teaches a prince to see, and he says to see with one's heart instead of with just one's eyes. So Rumi, the poet Rumi, has a quote as well, and he says, it is not what you see, but how you see it, right? So with the little prince, after caring for his rose for such a long time, he decides to leave and go to another planet. And in this planet, he arrives into planet Earth, in this planet, and he thought his rose was so special. It was just him and his rose and his planet. But when he arrives to this planet Earth, he's walking around and finds this garden of roses. And he's devastated. He's just devastated. And so he turns to all these roses and he asks, who are you? Right? And they reply, we're roses. And the little prince is so disappointed and says, my rose said it was one of a kind. It was the only one in the entire universe. So he's devastated, and he had imagined that his rose was unique, was valuable. And now he believes it is common and worthless. And so this is when his little friend, the fox, comes around, this fox, and says, but it is not a common rose. It is your rose. It is the time that you have devoted to it that makes your rose so important. And that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? That's what happened. And so the little prince replies, ah, it is my rose. It is my rose, right? Now there's a connection there. And the fox says, you must return to it. And as they're about to say goodbye, the fox starts crying a little bit. He starts to cry, and the little prince, he turns to him and says, oh no, you're going to cry. And the fox leans over and says, let me make you a present of a secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So the fox makes him realize that his flower is unique because the little prince has loved it and nurtured it for so long and is very special. And so this entire theme today was actually inspired by somebody here in our community. So you know who you are, and I thank you for sending me that quote that inspired today's class. And I had forgotten myself about the Little Prince, which is one of my favorite stories. And for a while I used to, they have it on YouTube, the entire book, and I used to just listen to it every night because I love it so much. And I had forgotten. It's been years, so thank you so much for sending this quote and for inspiring me to review this again. So when we talk about loving presence, as I was reading the quote yesterday, I was like, wow, maybe there's something to it, right? Maybe there's something to it that we can relate to in that way, what loving presence really is. To be with another in that bubble of kindness, really seeing them. And so, as I was saying, something that could be really helpful is to check our attitude at that moment, check our perception. If we're not in loving presence and we're in a different state of mind, right? And we check our state of mind, and if we're in a different or a non-loving presence, I would say, state of mind, we can nurture that. We can notice, what attitude can I draw from right now? What do I need right now? Am I trusting, right? Am I trusting the moment? Am I being patient, right? Patience. So all these attitudes that we have, and then our perception. How am I seeing this person? How am I seeing this thing, this event? What's happening? How am I seeing it? And so I might ask you, as just to leave you with something, maybe I can ask you, what gets on the way of your true, authentic, loving presence?